My brother used my house to scam strangers out of $12,000. My parents sided with him. Now he's begging me for help after getting arrested. For the past 5 years, I, a 29-year-old male, have been working hard in the scorching Arizona sun to install solar panels. The solar sector has been thriving, particularly in Phoenix, where every new neighborhood wants to go green for tax breaks. I started as a basic installer earning $18 per hour, but I worked my way up to crew chief by showing up on time and not making mistakes like half of the guys in this field. Now I earn $75,000 per year overseeing teams of installers on commercial and residential projects. I've also been supporting my family for 5 years. My best friend Dorian from high school has been following this for years. He's an auto technician who runs his own shop, built like a tank with no patience for nonsense. His evaluation on my situation: dude, you're like a financial Stockholm Syndrome victim. These people are bleeding you dry and you keep saying thank you afterward. Dorian is the type of buddy who will tell you precisely what you need to hear, even if you do not want to hear it. He's been successful because he treats people properly and refuses to take garbage from anyone. My cat, Zippo, was the only one who seemed to realize how messed up things were. This large orange tabby has been with me for 3 years and judges people more accurately than most humans. This is how the whole mess began. When Dad was laid off in 2019, they were 3 months behind on their mortgage with foreclosure proceedings already underway. The bank was not playing games. They had 60 days to make up the $4,200 in outstanding payments plus penalties or they were out. I'd recently been promoted to crew chief, earning $65,000 a year, which felt like hitting the lotto after years of scraping by. Instead of lending them money that they would never pay back, I made what I felt was a wise decision. I purchased their home outright for $180,000, depleted my entire savings account, took out a tiny personal loan, and emptied my 401k early with penalties, put the deed completely in my name for tax purposes, and told them they could repay me progressively over time. The house itself is a fine 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch from the 1990s. It's in a safe community with decent schools and little crime. Property values have been gradually rising, so it should be worth roughly $220,000 currently. The mortgage they couldn't pay was only $850 per month, which should have been feasible with 2 incomes. However, Marlon and Celeste have always struggled with money. Over the next 4 years they never returned a single penny to me. Not one. I kept detailed records of every expense. Property taxes, $3,200 per year. Homeowner's insurance, $1,800 per year. And every major repair. New roof in 2023 after hail damage, $12,000. HVAC replacement when the old unit died during a heat wave, $8,500. Plumbing issues from tree roots, $2,400. Garage door replacement, $1,600. Exterior paint job, $3,800. All out of my own pocket while they pretended to be doing me a favor by living there. The financial hardship was severe. I was practically supporting 3 persons with my pay while also saving for my own future. I had to postpone purchasing my own home, couldn't afford to upgrade my truck, and my savings account remained near nil for years. Meanwhile, they were living mortgage-free in a house that would have cost $1,200 a month to rent elsewhere. Celeste and Marlon, my parents, are both 52 years old and seem to live in a world of their own. Marlon claims his back is too injured to work after being laid off from a warehouse job, but he still spends 12 hours per day restoring his 1985 Camaro in my garage. Celeste works about 15 hours a week at a beauty boutique named Sheer Perfection. And yes, it is as tacky as it sounds. She spends more time chatting about customers than cutting hair, and she returns home grumbling about her demanding job. My 24-year-old brother Blaise is professionally worthless. This youngster has been to Arizona State University, dropped out after 1 semester. Phoenix Community College, dropped out twice. Universal Technical Institute, graduated but never used his automotive certification. And perhaps 30 different jobs. He's worked at GameStop, Best Buy, 3 different restaurants, a contact center, and many temporary agencies. Never lasted more than 6 months anywhere. He's currently building his brand as a freelance graphic designer, which means he earns around $200 per month producing bad logos for his stoner mates while pretending to be the next Steve Jobs. Blaise is the type who will eat your food, use your Netflix login, borrow your tools, and then gossip about you to anyone who would listen. The worst aspect was how they treated me in front of everyone. Blaise would invite guests over to my house, act as if he ruled the place and make jokes about me being the moneybags. Marlon would complain about his son's micromanagement of house renovations. Celeste would tell her sisters that I was constantly commenting on their design choices in my home. She'd spend my money on throw pillows and wall paintings, then act as if I was being unreasonable in questioning the spending. Last year she wanted to remodel the kitchen with a $15,000 renovation. Money I didn't have, and was upset when I declined. However, the breaking point occurred on New Year's Eve 2023, and it changed everything. December 31st, 2023. I'm standing at the front door of my house, arms full of food and party goods purchased for their New Year's celebration. The temperature is about 20 degrees, which is unusual for Arizona, but we were experiencing a cold spell. Mom opens the door as if I were a door-to-door salesman attempting to sell her solar panels. Her expression gets utterly blank when she sees me, as if she is staring at a stranger. You must have the wrong house. I'm standing there puzzled as heck. Mom, it's me. What are you talking about? She stares at me with dead eyes. I don't know who you are. Then she starts to close the door. The door. I'm holding hundreds of dollars worth of their party stuff, and she's practically shutting me out as if I'm some random person who showed up to the wrong address. Are you serious? I bought all the food and drinks for tonight. We don't need your charity, she shouts, slamming the door in my face. I waited in the cold for 10 minutes, listening to them laugh and music playing inside. I could smell the barbecue in the backyard. They were frying steaks. My phone vibrates. Text from Blaise. Don't take it personal, bro. Mom said you weren't invited this year. Something about needing boundaries and positive energy only. Maybe find some friends your own age. That's when I heard Marlon's voice through the window loud and clear. Maybe now he'll learn that throwing money around doesn't make you a family. Kid thinks he owns us just because he pays some bills. Then Blaise's voice became clearer. Honestly, it's pathetic. He's 29 years old and still trying to buy our love. Maybe getting locked out will teach him some self-respect. I heard Celeste giggle and agree. He's been way too involved in our business. The word struck me like a freight train. I literally owned them. I owned the house where they were sitting and making jokes about me. I owned the roof over their heads, the walls around them, and the ground they stood on. I had been paying for their energy, water, property taxes, and insurance. They were celebrating their independence from me by utilizing the resources I provided. Standing in the cold, holding groceries for folks who had just disowned me, I experienced a moment of complete clarity. They were not grateful for the 4 years of free housing. They were upset with me because of that. They would rather be homeless than recognize what I had done for them. I was going to drive home and spend New Year's alone, feeling sorry for myself, when I realized Dorian had invited me to his family's party. I called him from the driveway holding grocery bags like an idiot. They locked me out. Jesus Christ, Cassian, get over here right now. Dorian's family lives in a quaint neighborhood about 20 minutes from my home. The type of neighborhood where residents converse with their neighbors and children play in the streets. When I arrived with bags of food and champagne, his mother, Carol, immediately went into full Italian mama mode. Cassian, what are you doing bringing food? We have plenty. Dorian told me what happened. Those people are completely insane. Carol has been like a second mother to me since high school. She's this tiny Italian woman who manages to feed an army every time folks visit. Her house usually smells like garlic and fresh bread. And she has a way of making everyone feel welcome. The exact reverse of the reaction I just received from my own family. Dorian appeared with a drink for me already opened. So, let me understand this correctly. You bought food for their party, showed up at your own house, and they pretended not to know you? Pretty much. Dorian began chuckling, but not in a malicious way. Rather, he couldn't believe how ludicrous the scenario had become. Dude, this is like a really messed up episode of Punk'd, except the joke's been going on for 4 years and nobody told you. His father, Tony, a former construction worker, shook his head as he seasoned steaks. Son, in my day, if someone bought your house to save you from foreclosure, you'd be kissing their feet, not locking them out on New Year's. Tony built buildings for 30 years until his knees gave up. He recognizes the value of property, the cost of maintenance, and the responsibility that comes with ownership. Dorian's sister, Maria, a paralegal who handles real estate transactions, was captivated by the legal component. Wait, so you're on the deed? You pay all the expenses, but they have no idea you actually own it. They think I'm just helping with payments to keep it in the family. Maria's eyes glowed with professional curiosity. Oh my God, Cassian, you could evict them tomorrow if you wanted to. They're basically squatters with delusions of ownership. She began teaching legal terms like adverse possession, tenant rights, and eviction procedures. As someone who works with real estate documentation on a regular basis, she realized how legally screwed my family was. They had no documentation, no leasing agreement, and no ownership rights at all. Dorian almost spit out his drink. Please tell me you're considering it. I am. The contrast was stunning. I was sitting in a warm house with people who truly cared about me, while my biological family was celebrating my absence in a home I owned. As midnight approached, Dorian raised his glass, the same champagne I had purchased for my family's gathering. To Cassian, who's about to learn the difference between family and people who happen to share his DNA. When the ball dropped and everyone started rejoicing, Dorian grabbed me away. Dude, you know what you need to do, right? What's that? They want to play the "this is our house" game, show them the deed and watch their world collapse. Something clicked in my brain right then. In Casino, Sam Rothstein finds he was duped by trustworthy individuals. It was time to remind them who had all the cards. January 1st, 2024. I'm sitting in my apartment filled with coffee and wrath, researching tenant rights and eviction procedures on my laptop. My apartment is nothing fancy. A one-bedroom unit that I've been renting for $900 per month while covering all of the expenditures for a house I can't live in. Zippo was perched on my desk, watching me research legal matters with apparent acceptance for the first time in months. This cat had been assessing my family situation for years, and he suddenly appeared to feel that I was finally ready to take action. What do you think, Zippo? Time to teach them a lesson? Zippo stretched, knocked my pen from the desk, and gave me a slow blink. In cat language, that translates to, "It's about damn time, you idiot." Dorian came over about midday with breakfast sandwiches from our favorite deli. So, did you sleep on it like a rational adult, or are we going full nuclear like I suggested? Full nuclear. These people need to learn who actually owns what. I'd spent the morning researching Arizona's landlord-tenant legislation. It turns out that when you own property and people live there without a contract, they are referred to as tenants at will, and they can be removed with 30 days notice for any reason or no reason at all. No lease equals no protection. Then I discovered Anastasia via internet reviews and recommendations from other landlords. This woman has a reputation for being extremely brutal in eviction situations. Her success rate is over 98%, and she's received testimonials from landlords who've been dealing with horrible renters for years. During our consultation, she smirked like a predator as I explained the circumstances. Her workplace was all dark wood and law text designed to intimidate. Anastasia was just about 5 feet 4 inches tall, yet she exuded a presence that made you understand why renters were scared of her. So, you own the house. They've been living there for 4 years without paying rent, and they have no idea you're the owner. That's correct. She smiled. This will be fun. How quickly do you want them out? Dorian leaned forward. As quickly as legally could. These people locked him out on New Year's Eve. Anastasia took notes and asked tough questions regarding the documentation, which I had plenty of, while I detailed the entire situation. The neighbor complaints, Blaise social media posts, the frequent financial demands, and the complete lack of gratitude. I've been doing this for 15 years and have never encountered a case this clear-cut. You have all of the documents. They have no legal basis and their actions have been horrible. We are going to destroy them. 2 days later, I had my eviction papers ready. A notice to quit and demand for possession of premises in large, strong letters that would make anyone's stomach drop. The main terms were simple yet devastating. Current occupants Celeste Morrison, Marlon Morrison, and Blaise Morrison must leave within 30 days or face formal eviction and sheriff-assisted removal. Alternatively, they might stay as tenants, paying $1,000 each month, with the first month due within 10 days. Anastasia recommended the rent option to make me appear reasonable in court. We both knew they couldn't afford $1,000 a month. They'd been unable to pay their first $850 mortgage. So offering the option would make me appear nice to a judge while knowing they'd surely fail. The rent option serves multiple purposes, Anastasia noted. It makes you appear fair and reasonable. If they accept it but don't pay, you can get them out even faster. If they decline, you'll look like the nice man who attempted to work with them. When I returned home with the papers, Zippo took one glance at the legal documents, sat up straight, and slowly blinked at me as if to say, "Finally, you're not a pushover." Dorian grinned as he read the eviction notice. "This is beautiful." On January 3rd, I traveled to my residence with the papers and a process server that Anastasia had organized. Dorian insisted on attending the show. I wouldn't miss it for anything. This is better than any film. Marlon answered the door in his bathrobe, looking hungover and puzzled, and his expression changed from annoyed to bemused when he spotted me with some official-looking guy in a suit. "Cassian, what are you doing here? And who is this guy?" The process server moved forward with expert efficiency. "Richard Morrison, You're being served with legal notice regarding this property. He handed Marlon the paperwork and a receipt to sign. Service is completed. Good luck. Dorian was standing behind me, trying not to laugh as Marlon's face turned totally white after reading the first few paragraphs. The color drained from his face as he realized these weren't phony documents or a prank. What the hell is this, Cassian? What's happening? Read it carefully, Marlon. Celeste hurried to the door, seized the papers from Marlon's quivering hands and read them aloud. This can't be real. We own this home. Blaise arrived behind them, displaying his customary aggressiveness rather than attempting to comprehend the issue. This is ridiculous, Cassian. You can't just conjure up false legal documents. Check the county records, Celeste. My name has been on the deed for 4 years. You've been staying in my house without paying rent while treating me like garbage. That's when Blaise completely lost it, just as I had predicted. You are such a lying piece of expletive. There is no way you can own this house. You are only trying to scare us because you are upset about New Year's. Blaise, the county's records are public. You may look them up online right now using your phone. Screw it. This is our home. We are not going anywhere. You want us gone, so come and make us leave. Dorian stepped forward, entire 6 feet 2 inches kid. Threatening the actual property owner isn't the smartest legal strategy. Instead of taking the warning seriously or attempting to grasp their legal predicament, they chose to dispute it. Blaise convinced Marlon and Celeste that I was lying, that the documents were forgeries, and that they could hire a lawyer to prosecute me for attempting to take their home. The delusion was incredible to witness. The family drama erupted within hours. My phone began to fill up with calls from family who had heard Celeste's severely altered version of events. Most people took her side without asking for information or attempting to understand the actual legal issue. Aunt Carol called, weeping about how I was abandoning family members on the streets. Cousin Jenny exchanged a slew of heated emails about family loyalty and blood being thicker than water. Uncle Jim sent a lengthy voicemail expressing his disappointment at me and how this was not how he expected me to handle family. Celeste said that I was attempting to steal their house using forged legal documents, that I was envious of their secure home life, and that I was suffering from a mental breakdown that was causing me to be vindictive. But then Uncle Sam called. Marlon's older brother, Samuel, is 58 years old and has worked as a master plumber for 35 years. This guy started Morrison Plumbing from scratch, working out of his garage until he could afford a proper shop. He raised 4 children after his wife died of cancer when they were young, sent them all to college, and has no patience for laziness or excuses. Samuel and Marlon have been bickering for decades because Samuel believes Marlon is a useless mooch who has never accepted responsibility for anything in his life. Every family meeting concludes with Samuel calling Marlon out for being unemployed, broke, or making excuses for his most recent failure. Cassie, it's Samuel. I just got off the phone with Carol, who's having some kind of breakdown about you evicting Marlon and Celeste. Want to tell me what's really going on here? I described everything. Samuel listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. A long pause. So, you're telling me you've been Marlon's landlord for 4 years and he doesn't even know it? That's right. Samuel began chuckling, really laughing. Jesus Christ, Cassian. That lazy piece of has been complaining about being controlled by his own son who's been letting him live rent-free. This is the funniest thing I've heard all year. So you don't think I'm being too harsh? Too harsh? Kit, you should have kicked them out years ago. Marlon's been a deadbeat his entire adult life, and Celeste enables everything. Blaise has always been a smart-ass punk. Samuel's support felt amazing after hours of angry calls from other family who believed Celeste's victim story. Cassian, let me tell you something. I've been trying to get Marlon to act like a responsible adult for 20 years. You buying his house and letting him live there for free was the best thing that could have happened to him, and he threw it away because he's too stupid and entitled to appreciate it. Samuel told me stories about Marlon's failures throughout the years. He'd quit his jobs, tried to start enterprises with other people's money, and was constantly borrowing and never repaying. He'd been watching Marlon fail in life for decades, making excuses and blaming everyone else. 3 days later, Anastasia called to provide an update. Cassian, they hired a lawyer and they're contesting the eviction. They're claiming adverse possession and alleging fraud. Are you serious? Dead serious. Their lawyer is Martin Goldberg. He's what we call a bottom feeder. He'll take any case if the money's right. He's filing a motion claiming they've been living there openly for 15 years and should have ownership rights. The court hearing on January 25th was planned for 10 a.m. I arrived in my nicest suit, accompanied by Anastasia and a folder with all of the necessary documentation: property deeds, tax records, purchase agreements, maintenance invoices, bank statements, to prove that I was the rightful owner. They showed up with Martin. Blaise was dressed in his lone dress shirt and acted as if he was about to reveal some major conspiracy. Judge Martinez appeared angry from the outset. She had plainly encountered this type of situation before: crazy renters who believe they could take property through legal means. Mr. Goldberg, your clients are claiming adverse possession of property they don't own. Your Honor, my clients have been residing in this property for 15 years and have made substantial improvements. Do they have documentation of these improvements? Goldberg shuffled his papers anxiously. Well, Your Honor, they have receipts for some materials. Mr. Morrison, do you have the property deed? Anastasia stepped up with clean professionalism. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Cassian Morrison has been the sole owner since 2019, when he purchased the property to prevent foreclosure, and the defendants knew about this purchase. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Morrison purchased the property to help his family avoid foreclosure but retained sole ownership. Anastasia presented our evidence methodically. The purchase paperwork showed that I paid $180,000 in cash. Deed transfer shows my name as sole owner. 4 years of property tax payments under my name. Insurance policies under my name. Maintenance receipts totaling more than $30,000 for repairs and enhancements. Everything is documented. Everything is lawful. When it came Goldberg's time, he had almost nothing. There was no documentation or evidence. Only accusations that my family deserved the house since they had lived there for longer. He attempted to argue that I had cheated them, but he had no evidence of fraud. The judge was harsh in her dismissal. Mr. Goldberg, adverse possession requires specific legal criteria that your clients clearly don't meet. They don't have continuous possession. They don't have hostile possession. And they don't have open and notorious possession. Mr. Morrison is the legal owner, has been paying all expenses, and wants possession of his property. Your motion is denied. Defendants have 30 days to vacate. Blaise jumped up like an idiot. This is BS. You can't just steal our house. Bailiff, remove that man if he speaks again. As we walked out, Blaise was yelling in the hallway about corrupt judges and family treachery, and courtroom guards threatened to arrest him for disturbing the peace. That evening, Uncle Samuel called, his voice filled with satisfaction. Cassian, I heard about the court hearing from Carol. She's all worked up about Marlon and Celeste losing. But I told her exactly what I think about the situation. What did you tell her? I told her that Marlon's been a lazy mooch his entire life, that you saved their asses from foreclosure and let them live rent-free for 4 years, and that they brought this on themselves by treating you like garbage. I also told her that anyone taking Marlon's side in this is an idiot. After being destroyed in court, they had no choice but to confront reality. Their lawyer, Goldberg, effectively advised them they didn't have a case and that they try to negotiate with me rather than face eviction and homelessness. The defeat in court had been complete and public. There was no uncertainty regarding who owned the house, and their legal rights were clear. They were squatters legally and everyone knew it. Celeste called on February 1st, her voice quivering with urgency. Cassian, honey, we've been looking everywhere. Everything decent is $1,200 or more, and we need the first month, last month, and security deposit. We don't have that kind of money. I put the call on speaker so Dorian could hear. He came over to assist me sort some paperwork and immediately started grinning. Zippo was sitting on the couch between us and I think he was listening intently. That sounds like a personal problem, Celeste. Please, can we rent from you? We'll pay you fairly. We just need a chance to prove we can be good tenants. The irony was stunning. After 4 years of living rent-free, locking me out on New Year's Eve, and attempting to steal my house in court, she was suddenly pleading to be my tenant. Dorian was making exaggerated jerking-off motions behind me, hoping to make me laugh. Zippo glanced back and forth between us as if he was enjoying the show. $1,000 a month. First month due February 10th. Month-to-month lease, which means I can terminate with 30 days notice if you screw up even once. $1,000, Cassian? That's so much money. Couldn't we start at maybe $700 and work up to it? Celeste, comparable houses in your neighborhood rent for $1,200 to $1,400. I'm giving you a discount. Take it or leave it. Marlon answered the phone with his typical entitlement. Son, we appreciate this. The court thing got out of hand, but we're family. We can make this work. This isn't family anymore, Marlon. This is business. You're my tenants now. Act like it. Blaise tried to negotiate as one would expect. Bro, what if we did like $800? I mean, we just spent money on that lawyer and court fees. You spent your money on a lawyer to try to steal my house. That's not my problem. It's $1,000 or you're out in 3 weeks. Dorian was shaking his head in disbelief as I hung up. Cassian, I'll bet you $100 they won't make the first payment. Zippo stretched and knocked a pen off the sofa table, which I took as his agreement with Dorian's assessment. Uncle Samuel contacted after learning about the leasing arrangement through the family rumor network. Cassian, I heard you're giving them another chance with the rent option. You're more generous than I would be. Think they'll actually pay? Samuel laughed, a sound that contained no humor. Kid, Marlon hasn't held a steady job in 4 years. Celeste works part-time by choice, and Blaise makes maybe $200 a month playing with his computer. What do you think? They signed a month-to-month rental agreement on February 8th at Anastasia's office. The entire process seemed awkward and tense. Blaise was a real ass at the signing, making sarcastic remarks about every clause and behaving as if I was ridiculous. So, if we're late on rent, can you just kick us out? That seems harsh for the family, your tenants. And yes, if you don't pay rent, you get evicted. That's how renting works. Whatever, bro. This whole situation is screwed up and you know it. Marlon signed the lease, grumbling about the monthly payment. Celeste kept inquiring about utilities and maintenance tasks. They were mentally evaluating whether they could genuinely afford the payments the entire time. Anastasia acted professionally while plainly enjoying the occasion. Mr. Morrison, I'll keep the eviction paperwork ready. Based on my experience, you'll probably need it within 30 days. February 10th came and went. There is no rental payment. Exactly what Samuel and Dorian predicted. Celeste contacted on February 12th with usual explanations. Cassian, honey, we're having a little cash flow issue. Marlon's disability application is still pending, and Blaise's client hasn't paid him yet. Can we get it to you by the 15th? Dorian was there when I called, eating pizza and watching the show. Zippo was splayed across my lap, purring as if fascinated by the scenario playing over the phone speaker. Cash flow issue, Dorian said mockingly. That's fancy talk for, we spent our rent money on a lawyer to steal your house. Cassian, we're trying our best here. Can't you work with us? You agreed to pay $1,000 by February 10th. It's now February 12th. You're already in default. February 15th. Still no payment. This time, Marlon called with his usual entitled attitude. Cassian, we need to talk about this rent situation. $1,000 is unrealistic given our current circumstances. Dorian nearly choked on his drink, laughing. Current circumstances? You mean being broke because you tried to steal his house? Marlon, you signed a lease agreeing to pay $1,000 monthly. If you can't afford it, you need to move out. Come on, Cassian. Be reasonable. We're family. We can work something out. We're not family. You made that clear. Tenants who aren't paying rent. After 20 days of excuses and broken promises, Anastasia filed the second eviction. Cassie, this is even easier than the first one. They signed a lease. They're in default, and they have no legal standing whatsoever. The March 1st court session was nasty. The judge was clearly upset to see the same defendants again, especially because they had wasted the court's time with their false adverse possession claim. Mr. Morrison, back again with the same family? Yes, Your Honor. They signed a rental lease, then failed to pay the first month's rent. Blaise couldn't keep his mouth shut, which was ideal for our situation. Your Honor, this is retaliation. He's mad that we tried to fight for our rights. The judge appeared disgusted. Son, you attempted to take his house and failed. Now you're not paying the rent you pledged to pay. This is not retaliation. These are the consequences. The plaintiff has received a judgment. Defendants have 7 days to evacuate or face sheriff-assisted removal. 7 days instead of 30. The judge was clearly fed up with their BS and wanted them to leave quickly. But the real drama began following the eviction. Blaise's desperation escalated into outright harassment, and his carefully planned lies began to crumble spectacularly. 2 weeks after they were forced out, I was in my apartment when this large guy showed up at my door, looking quite angry. He was built like a bouncer and covered in tattoos. Not someone you want angry at you. Cassian Morrison? Yeah. Who's asking? Name's Marcus. I'm looking for your piece of S***** Blaise. He owes me money, and I heard he might be staying with you. Blaise doesn't live with me. We're not exactly on speaking terms. Marcus was perplexed and increasingly irritated. That's weird, man. When Blaise borrowed $5,000 from me last month, He said he lived in this nice house with his family and had steady design work. Showed me pictures of the house and everything. My blood ran cold. He borrowed $5,000 from you? Yeah. Said he needed it for high-end design equipment and software licenses for his business. Showed me his portfolio. Talked about all these big corporate clients he was landing. Said he'd pay me back in 30 days, no problem. Blaise had been using my house as security for loans, claiming he lived there with his prosperous family and ran a booming design business. Marcus had been shown images of my property, specifically my garage and driveway. He'd been claiming credit for my accomplishment in order to defraud people. Kid seemed legit, Marcus continued. Professional portfolio, nice family home, talked a good game about his business growth. But now I find out he's homeless and his design business is BS. What happens if he doesn't pay you back? Marcus cracked his knuckles with a clear determination. Well, I'm not the type to just write off $5,000. I've got his signed promissory note, copies of his ID, his social security number, everything. If he doesn't pay up, I'm taking him to court and filing criminal charges for fraud. After Marcus departed, Dorian laughed his ass off. Dude, your brother borrowed money by pretending he still lived in your house and had a successful business. That's next-level scamming. 2 days later, Blaise called me from an unknown number, sounding terrified and desperate. Cassian, I need your help. There's this guy Marcus looking for me and he's serious about getting his money back. Yeah, he came by my place. You borrowed $5,000 by lying about living in my house. Look, I was desperate, okay? I needed money for equipment and I thought I could pay him back once I got some big clients. Blaise, you've made like $200 total in the past 6 months. What made you think you could pay back $5,000? I don't know. I thought something would work out. But now he's threatening to sue me and file criminal charges. That's fraud, Blaise. You used false information to get money you knew you couldn't pay back. Can you help me out just this once? I'll pay you back. I swear. You borrowed money by claiming you lived in my house and had a successful business. That's your problem, not mine. I called Uncle Samuel and gave him the update. Samuel was quiet for a time before bursting into genuine laughter. That little bozo. He's been telling people he's a great entrepreneur while living rent-free and earning $200 a month? This is perfect. Blaise just committed fraud. Real fraud with criminal implications. This isn't a family drama anymore. This is an actual crime. That boy is about to see what genuine consequences look like. 2 months later, Blaise was arrested. It seems that Marcus was not his only victim. Blaise had borrowed money from at least 3 different people. The total was more than $12,000 in bogus loans, all secured by using my home as proof of his stability and success. He had been conducting a methodical deception, photographing my property and presenting it as proof of his financial success and family support. Blaise ultimately pleaded guilty to 7 counts of fraud and theft by deception. He received 2 years of probation, restitution orders for all of the money he had taken, and a criminal record that would follow him forever. Blaise used family property to commit his deception, so the judge was especially punitive. Meanwhile, Marlon was jailed for trespassing after breaking into his brother's house and being kicked out. He'd been staying with Uncle Paul until they became weary of his attitude and kicked him out. Rather than finding suitable housing, he attempted to break into Paul's home to reclaim his stuff, but was apprehended by neighbors. Celeste ended up in a women's shelter after severing ties with every relative who attempted to assist her. It turns out that repeatedly talking about your ungrateful son and begging for money gets old quickly among family members. Dorian moved into my house as the ideal tenant, paying $1,200 per month and taking greater care of the property than my family ever did. He sought permission before making any improvements, paid his rent on time every month, and increased the property's worth through maintenance and additions. The nicest thing was that Uncle Samuel became the extended family's voice of reason. He confronts everyone who attempts to defend Marlon or Celeste, armed with evidence and years of seeing Marlon fail in life. Cassian's the only one in this family with any sense, Samuel remarked to Aunt Carol during the previous family meeting. Marlon's a deadbeat, Celeste's an enabler, Blaise is a criminal, and Cassian's the only one who worked hard and made something of himself. Sarah and I are now engaged, and we're arranging a small wedding with Dorian as my best man. You know what the best part is? Samuel asked during our engagement party. You didn't just get revenge on Marlon. You showed everyone what real success looks like. You own property. You've got a good job. You're marrying a great woman. And you're surrounded by people who actually give a damn about you. They had ample opportunities to treat me with basic respect while living in my home for free. Instead, they opted for entitlement, lies, and court warfare. Now they're dispersed around the state, facing criminal charges and dealing with the consequences of their own acts. While I am prospering, some bridges should be burnt.